Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, we're going to give you a divisional round preview for the playoffs this weekend. We're going to talk about the teams we like to win, the over-under, some players we like as well if you want to use them for DFS or pick 'em, stuff like that. So we're going to go over all that for the divisional round games, and I'm going to be joined today by Logan Glaser, once again, contributing writer of RealTime Fantasy Sports. Logan's been so kind to join me throughout the season. Logan, thanks for joining me once again for this divisional round preview.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff. Should be another great weekend of football. I think last weekend was probably one of the best weekends of football that we've ever seen from playoffs. Every single game was close. We had some dramatic finishes as well and some blown leads.
I'm excited about the games this weekend. And as we go over these lines, a lot of them I think are way too high. I really think any of these teams can win. I think, maybe one or two ones that I feel pretty confident that the home team's going to win. But overall, I would not be surprised if any of these teams won. It would not surprise me in the least bit. I don't know.
Totally agree. All the lines range between 4 and 9 points, which is a bit crazy. There's nothing under 3 points. But yeah, like you said, I can see any team winning any matchup this week.
Before I get to that, before we go over these games, let's talk about this playoff blitz best ball championship we're running. It's $10,000 grand prize. It's 10-team rosters. It's best ball. You start 5 each week. No kicker or defense. The drafts take like 15 minutes, maybe 16 minutes.
Yeah, 15, 16 minutes is about what those drafts are averaging. It's a six-man league, 6-team league with that. And it's best ball format, so just draft and you can forget about it just for the divisional round and onward throughout the playoffs. So lots of strategy involved with that.
Yeah, it's just $20 to get in, $10,000 grand prize as well. So it's a big prize for a little entry fee, and also this stuff usually sells out. So I would not hesitate to get in sooner than later as well. Don't you agree there, Logan?
For sure, yeah. It'll kick off Saturday afternoon with that first game with Jags Chiefs kicking it off Saturday. So make sure you get in before then. It's already about 30% full. Just launched 2 days ago. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that.
And like we said, drafts are going off around the clock at this point, so you can get in one at any time of the day, and it's quick. You can do it over your lunch break. You can do it when you get home from work, whatever.
Yeah, every 30 minutes, the draft is going off. It's currently 10 o'clock here in St. Louis, but we've already had about 3 or 4 drafts go off this morning and all throughout the afternoon as well.
Again, that's Playoff Blitz, Best Ball Championship, $10,000. Go to www.rtsports.com. Click on that Money League link at the top of the page. Let's get to these games now. First one, Jaguars at Chiefs. So that line, -9 for the Chiefs, and the over-under's 53. What are you looking at there, Logan?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jags +9 and over 53. I personally think the Chiefs do end up winning this game, but I think the Jags can keep this within a one-score game. They're riding off of so much momentum coming back against the Chargers. I think Chiefs might overlook them just a little bit by kind of looking into that Bills-Bengals possible matchup along with that. I do still think the Chiefs win. They just have so much offensive power. Patrick Mahomes is playing at an MVP level, who should probably win the MVP this year. But Trevor Lawrence is also undefeated on a Saturday. Let's not forget that as well. So I do think this game is a close one, but I do think the Chiefs win. But I'm going to go with Jags +9 and the over 53.
So not good television here or a video, whatever you want to call it, but I totally agree with that. That's exactly what I'm picking. The Jags too, 8-5 is an underdog this year, so I say they cover. Chiefs average right around 30 points a game, Jags 24, and that offense is actually playing better. So I like the over here as well. Neither defense is great at shutting down the opposition, so I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the Jags keep it close. The Chiefs win it in the end. So let's talk about a player or two that you like in this matchup, maybe for DFS, pick them, whatever you want to use it for. Tell me who you like.
Yeah, I like Travis Kelce in this matchup. So Travis Kelce has not scored a touchdown since week 12 of the regular season, which means he is absolutely due. This is their first playoff game, and I think Mahomes is for sure going to be targeting Travis Kelce. I think my favorite bet on this slate is Travis Kelce to score a touchdown this week. It's going to be a high-scoring game against the Jags, and Travis Kelce, like I said, is due. Mahomes is going to be targeting. I expect him to get at least one target in the end zone in this matchup, and he can pull off those big plays as well, 30, 40-yard touchdown passes as well. So I really like Travis Kelce to score this week, and that is my play for this matchup.
Yeah, I love Travis Kelce too. He's one of my targets. Plus, Jags allow the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends. Earlier in the year, he had 6 catches for 81 yards and a score against the Jags. So I think Kelce's a great play. I like Christian Kirk too with Jacksonville. He's one of my favorite plays for this week. He scored 21.8 fantasy points in their playoff opener. He has 21 plus fantasy points, 2 straight games. He's been the top target in this offense all season long. And against Chiefs earlier this year, again, this was a matchup that the Chiefs won, but Kirk had 9 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Chiefs allowed the 8th most fantasy points for receivers as well. So I like Kirk as an anytime touchdown. I like him for a lot of catches, a lot of yards as well. I think this will be a high-scoring game. When you get a lot of players involved, but I think Kirk will do well in this matchup. All right, let's talk about the first NFC game of the weekend. That's Giants at Eagles. Giants kind of, I don't know if it was a huge surprise, but they beat Minnesota on the road, but looked really impressive. That line, -7.5 for the Eagles, and the over under is 48. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Eagles -7.5 and the over 48. This is a divisional matchup. A lot of people are going to be on the Giants. I'm pretty sure over 80% of the public money is currently on the Giants in this matchup. But I personally think the Eagles are just way too talented on the defensive end and can shut down Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. And Giants still are struggling at wide receiver. They've had some surprises with Isaiah Hodgins and also Richie James kind of emerge out of there. But I still think the Eagles defense is going to shut them down. And the player I'm really looking at in this game is A.J. Brown. There's only been 2 games on this entire season that he's been held under 10 fantasy points. So I expect him to have another monstrous game. He ranks the 5th best wide receiver for fantasy purposes on the year. He's already scored against the Giants this year, and it's going to be rocking in Philadelphia for this matchup. And I really like the Eagles this week.
So now I do differ with you a little bit on this one. I do think the Eagles win. I do like the over as well. Eagles averaging about 28 points per game, Giants 21.5, but their offense is a lot better right now. So I think it's going to go over that 48. But I like the Giants to cover here. They're actually a league best 14-4 against the spread this year. I do know one of those non-covers was against the Eagles earlier in this year when they waxed them 48-22 in week 14. It's a different team in my opinion. Giants defense is playing better, and I think they actually cover here. But I do think it'll be a good game. I do think the Eagles will win. I like your call on A.J. Brown. For Philadelphia, for me, I really like Miles Sanders in this matchup. He ran 17 times for a season-high 144 yards and 2 scores in Week 14 against the Giants. I think he's going to get a big workload in this game. Giants 27th overall against the run. So I think they're not going to forget about that run. Sanders had a breakout season as well, so I think he's going to do well. And with New York, the Giants, I think you got to keep rolling with Daniel Jones. I know this is a tough matchup. He's on the road. He has 30-plus fantasy points, 2 straight games, and 20-plus 5 of 6. Just so consistent because of his running. That really helps his floor. I think he gets his points again, even if the Giants lose in this matchup. I think he's still going to be a good fantasy play, and I like him in DFS, and I also like him in the pick'em stuff as well if you want to go over on a lot of those categories that you have for Daniel Jones. So,
Daniel Jones is a great fantasy quarterback just because of his ceiling with rushing. I mean, I was watching that Minnesota Giants game, and there was probably 6 straight plays that he was just rushing. They were just lining him up and rushing him just like a halfback with that. So,
in the playoffs, they don't mind, giving him a little more of a beating there.
Exactly, yeah. There's nothing to say for. So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, my son Henry and I were talking about what kind of contracts he's going to get this offseason. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
I am too.
He might really cash in. He might get a big deal.
Yeah, he's definitely improved a lot this last season. It went from being a fringe, maybe Giants quarterback, to now they kind of going to lock him in as their franchise quarterback. So
hopefully he can get some more weapons at receiver too, because I'm really excited to see what he can do with that. Because that's a bad group.
Yeah, they kind of have a lot of their money tied up in Kenny Galladay. So
get him out of there. All right, let's move on to the next AFC game. That's Bengals at Bills. I'm really excited about this one. Bills are actually favored. They're -5.5. Over-under's 48, so not a huge number considering these offenses. What are you looking for in this matchup?
Yeah, this line definitely surprised me. I expected this to probably be about a 2 to 3 point spread personally, but with this 5.5 I'm still going to go with the Bills, though, -5.5. I think the Bengals are too beat up on the offensive line right now. And I think that's going to be the crucial part of this game. I think Bills are going to be able to rush Joe Burrow a lot this game. He's going to have to get the ball out quickly. And I think they're going to swallow up Joe Mixon along with the run. So I'm liking the under 48 on this game as well. So both teams are very electric on offense, but that's, I think, the reason why that line is so low is just because of how bad the Bengals offensive line is. And I think what the Bills have to do is control this game. They did not control the game very well against Miami. They kind of just let it get into a shootout format, which is great for the Bills because, I mean, if you have a shootout, Josh Allen's a perfect quarterback for this, but I think they got to be smarter in this game and control the tempo. We're also looking at about an inch of snow during the game, so weather can definitely play a factor in that as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Watch the weather in this one. You don't know what's going to happen. A lot can change between now and then. But like you said, a little bit of a dusting at this point. But if it's more, you got to worry about points being scored with a lot of snow on the ground. So I'm going to differ from you again on this one. I actually like the Bengals not to win, but to cover. They've covered 8 straight games as an underdog. That's the longest streak in the NFL. I think they'll do it again here. I am worried about the offensive line. 2 guys out. Burrow could be under pressure a lot. The Bills are beat up along the defensive line as well, with Von Miller beat up a little bit there. And then the score, I think it's going to go over. Bills have scored 30-plus points 4 straight games, so I think they're going to score a lot. I do think it's going to be a close game, though, so I think the Bengals cover, the Bills win, and I'm going with the over here. So we're different a little bit there. Let's talk about a player or two we like as well in this matchup. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, first player I'm going to be looking at is James Cook. So he had 12 carries versus Miami. They really relied on him on the ground with that. Scored a touchdown against Miami. And like I said, I think this is going to be a game that the Bills need to control the tempo of this game. I think that's going to be very crucial for them. I think that's going to be a game plan coming into this game to control the tempo, and they're going to be doing that through the ground. So I really like James Cook. It's my play in this game.
All right, a couple guys I like. I actually like Hayden Hurst a little bit in this matchup. He has not been off the charts this year, but he's pretty consistent. He has at least 4 receptions 9 times, and he has been pretty involved in the offense since coming back from an injury a couple weeks ago. He has 11 targets his last 2 games and caught 4 passes each of those games. I think the Bills are going to focus on shutting those receivers down, might create some better matchups for Hurst in the middle of the field, so I think he might get some looks in the red zone as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores a touchdown here, so I kind of like him for an anytime TD. And then Isaiah McKenzie, too, with the Bills. He's returning from injury. If you want to take a shot at a cheap DFS option, I might take a look at him with Cole Beasley. He scored a touchdown last week. He hasn't been involved in the offense hardly at all, but he had 5 targets playing that Isaiah McKenzie role. So with McKenzie back, maybe he gets 5 targets this week, get some looks in the red zone. So if you're looking for a cheap option DFS, I might consider McKenzie here. He could surprise as he returns from that hamstring injury. Last game of the weekend, Cowboys at 49ers. This line's -4 for 49ers, over under 46. So this is the lowest of the lines for the week in terms of over under. And what do you think is going to happen here, Logan?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very highly anticipated game. Both great fan bases with this, but I'm going to go with San Francisco -4 and the under 46. I think both teams have great defenses as well. And the player I'm really going to be looking at is the San Francisco 49ers defense. So it's actually players, but they're number 2 on the season with 147 points scored on the defensive side. And Dak Prescott led the NFL with 15 interceptions during the regular season. So he's turns the ball over a lot, and 49ers defense forces a lot of turnovers. So this is a perfect matchup for them to score a lot of points, get some pressure on Dak also, with him being more of a mobile quarterback a little bit, getting outside of the pocket. It's easier for sacks for the defense. So I especially like that for the defensive side. I think the reason why I'm going with under on this is Brock Purdy. It has been a while since he played a defense as good as Dallas. Last week he had Seattle. First half, he looked okay, but second half, he looked great. But I think this defense on Dallas side is going to be a completely different factor than Seattle was. I think they're going to be able to force a couple of turnovers as well. So I really like this to be a defensive game, but I'm still going to go with 49ers -4 overall.
So I'm going to agree with you here. Exactly the same as me. I think 49ers win, they cover, and I like the under as well. 49ers, 11 straight wins on the season, and they're 9-2 against the spread during that stretch. So they've likely been favored in a lot of those games. They're still covering. I like them to win here, maybe win by a touchdown. I think the Cowboys keep it pretty close, but
Yeah.
it'll be a low-scoring affair. Like you said, these defenses are both pretty good. Purdy could be under a little duress, so I think they might take the air out of the ball a little bit more, run it with the two backs, and then Deebo Samuel might get some runs as well, like he did last week. So I think it'll be a little more of a ground attack for both teams in these matchups. I think it'll be low-scoring. Couple players I like. One's Dalton Schultz, 24 plus fantasy points, 2 of his last 3 games. He has 3 games this year with multiple touchdowns. Again, I like his chances with the receivers trying to get locked down in this for San Francisco, trying to lock down CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and those guys. So I think Schultz might get a few more favorable looks in the middle of the field. And I like Elijah Mitchell with the 49ers too. Get him a little cheaper at DFS. He had just 27 total yards last week, but he had 11 touches in the game. He found the end zone. He's found the end zone each of his last 2 games. He's getting double-digit touches per game, and Dallas has allowed some big games on the ground this year.
Yeah.
150-plus rushing yards 6 times they've allowed, including 2 times over 200 rushing yards. So I think Mitchell could do some damage with double-digit touches this week. All right, Logan, that's our preview for the divisional round games. Should be a great weekend of games. Like we said, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend of football, just like last week. So I'm very excited for it.
Yep. And don't forget, again, get in our Playoff Blitz contest, Best Ball Championship, $10,000. Go to rtsports.com, click on that Money League link, chance to win $10,000. All right, Logan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
All right, this has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports.
And this has been Logan Glaser from RealTime Fantasy Sports.
Enjoy the games this weekend, everyone.